Hey guys, Daria here, and you're watching the Vlog. Instead of a regular episode, I decided to tell you how my morning goes before shooting. Let's go! I sleep blissfully until the afternoon. Nope, I wish I could. A real pain in the neck in the morning is picking clothes. They've got to be smart and stand out from the background. I don't recommend you wear striped clothing. Well, you know what I'm saying. The next thing is breakfast. Yep, the most important part of the day. If you've got the time for it, sure. A car isn't the right place to be naughty or shoot a vlog. Shoot! I carefully read and double-check the entire script before shooting. Sometimes they are quite long, so it takes a while to check them carefully. And here we go, that's the studio. Shall we start? You may have already figured out that today's episode is devoted to transitions and splices, which you can do with just a camera and minimum editing skills. These simple tricks can make the results of your editing more exciting and may even become attention grabbers in your videos. These splices and transitions are not common only among vloggers. Lots of filmmakers use them as well. Guy Ritchie, for example, is a frequent user of such transitions in his work. The intro in the movie Snatch is entirely based around these tricks, which enables the director to quickly and concisely show the connections between all the characters. It also fills in some of the movie's prehistory. There are quite a few options with unusual montage splices, but they do fall into a few definable groups based on the way they are executed. Transition using shade. An object fully or partially overlaps the frame. The screen acquires additional shade or exposure, and the splice remains hidden. An abrupt change of movement. The movement at the beginning of one scene and at the end of another may be so fast that the splice is simply invisible. As a result, the final impression is of a complete scene. A strong emphasis. A flick, jump, clap, or stroke. On the one hand, it may seem that we're not hiding the splice here, but doing just the opposite by emphasizing it. But the thing is that the same action takes place both at the end of the first scene and at the beginning of the second, uniting them. Similar objects. Most probably this is the trickiest of all and requires careful consideration. The viewer sees a shot on the screen, which is a logical continuation of the current scene, but in reality, it is the beginning of the next one. Another more common option is a transition between scenes by means of resemblance of some objects in the frame. For instance, in Sherlock, a British TV series, coffee cups turn into Watson's pupils, emphasizing his emotional state. Or likewise, a maze track turns into palms. Well now, I guess you must be pretty tired of the historical reference and are impatient to learn how to make these transitions yourself. Okay, you can check this out right away. I stressed the importance of the script at the start of this episode for good reason. The most critically important thing about these transitions is to carefully think through all the camera movements beforehand. The first transition is a sideways slide. At the end of the first scene, you gotta shift the camera sharply to the side to create a motion blur effect. At the start of the second scene, you gotta pull off the same trick, but on the other side, to keep the direction of the camera movement. That is, if you move the camera from left to right in the first scene, then the second scene must start from left to right as well. Of course, the initial shot needs to be a bit to the left of the main action. It is best if you shoot with a monopod or tripod, but you can create the same effect with a handheld camera. In addition, you can film your friends at completely different times, but create the impression they were next to you the whole time. Right, Maria? Just like that. To be honest, we started filming in the morning, and Maria came only a few hours later, which means we shot this scene separately. In the same way, we can create a transition through shade. You fully cover the lens with any object in one scene, and start the next one with a shade. The next approach is a wall transition. For sure, a monopod, an office chair, skateboard, or similar movable item will come in handy for smooth camera movement in the horizontal plane, but if you don't have anything to hand, use your wits. Keep your arms against your body and turn your toes out wide to make this movement smooth and avoid taking extra steps. The next scene should be shot from behind a wall or some other obstacle. The rest of the transitions can be made by analogy. You just create the same actions at the end of one scene and at the beginning of the next. All the real magic is here, in the editing phase. A colleague of mine helped me to shoot this whole thing. You can of course recreate the same effect just with the camera phone by yourself. That's me recording a voiceover. And now I'm sipping tea and having some cookies. And I'm back at my workplace, ready to tell you about the easiest thing, which is montage. Let's open the video editor and upload our files. You've probably got way too many shots. Try to keep just the best ones. Most importantly is to pick the right point for a splice. In the transition that uses an abrupt change in movement, choose a moment when the picture is the blurriest. It'll help make the transition point invisible. Let's go! If you use transitions for shade, make sure the object in use fully overlaps the frame at the end of one shot and the beginning of the next one. Don't leave too much time for the transition itself, otherwise the viewer will smell a rat. Nope, I wish I could. A real pain in the neck in the morning is… The transition has to be quick, so it's barely noticeable. If necessary, speed up the segment with a splice. Nope, I wish I could. A real pain in the neck in the morning is Using a strong emphasis as a transition, select a peak point in the action for a splice, the clap itself, a flick, or similar. That's when the effect will be the most intense. Just make sure the sound of the action itself doesn't get duplicated. If you've got the time for it, sure. A car isn't the right… As an option, you can shift the splice point a bit ahead, as we have in this sample, so the viewer gets to see the beginning of the second scene. If you've got the time for it, sure. A car isn't the right place to be naughty or should… If you've been paying attention, you may have noticed that transitions are often accompanied by a sound effect. This can add magic and smoothness. Pick appropriate sound effects. As a rule, it's best to use muffled sounds, like the wind blowing. Place them in the transitions and make them a bit quieter, so that they don't divert too much of the viewer's attention away. Let's go! Let's go! Done! Now you've got one more tool in your kit to help you create fabulous videos. There is a whole bunch of amazing splices. I'm sure you can think of some interesting options yourself based on the main principles. Go for it! Come up with your own splices and don't forget to share your creative ideas for transitions in the comments. Not sure where to get sound effects? Watch our earlier episode on that topic. Also, make sure to subscribe, like the video, and click on the notification bell. That'll make me really happy. See ya!